Since time immemorial, humanity has sought answers about its origin, its purpose, and its final destination. The story of Adam and Eve is, without a doubt, one of the oldest and most enigmatic narrations that have survived over time. But what would happen if I told you that there is a lost book, a hidden piece of the puzzle, that reveals terrifying secrets about what really happened after his expulsion from Eden? Throughout the centuries, there has been talk of missing manuscripts, texts that were excluded from the official Bible, relegated to the shadows for reasons that still generate debate today. The lost book of Adam and Eve is one of those forbidden texts, a document that promises to reveal hidden details about the first humans, their struggle with dark forces, and the true impact of their fall. But what secret is hidden in this manuscript? Why was it removed from the sacred scriptures? And how dangerous can the truth it contains be? Next, we will explore the rediscovered fragments of this ancient text, analyze its shocking revelations, and discover why its message could change everything we thought we knew about the sacred history of humanity. Prepare for a deep journey where the forbidden and the sacred intertwine in a truth that few dare to face. The story of Adam and Eve is, without a doubt, one of the oldest stories of humanity. Its origin dates back to the sacred texts of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, where it is narrated how the first human beings were created by God and placed in the Garden of Eden, only to be expelled after disobeying the divine order. However, what most people do not know is that this story has many more layers of meaning, and that there are ancient texts that tell a very different version of events. One of these texts is the first and second book of Adam and Eve, also known as the Apocalypse of Moses, or the Writings of Adam. It is an ancient manuscript of Gnostic origin that was excluded from the Bible and relegated to the apocryphal texts. Its content is fascinating and disturbing, as it not only deepens on what happened after the expulsion of Eden, but also describes the spiritual struggle of Adam and Eve against the forces of evil, their contact with celestial and demonic entities, and the deep sorrow they felt after being banished from the presence of God. According to these writings, after being expelled, Adam and Eve not only faced the physical suffering of living out of paradise, but were constantly persecuted by Satan, who sought in multiple ways to deceive them again. This is where history takes a surprising turn. These texts suggest that the true punishment of humanity was not only mortality or hard work, but spiritual isolation, disconnection with the divine kingdom, and the constant attack of dark entities that seek to keep us trapped in ignorance. These manuscripts, which have been preserved in different versions, especially in Coptic Christianity, also include detailed descriptions of the angelic hierarchies, the portals between dimensions, and the existence of a forbidden knowledge that was hidden from humanity. But if this book reveals so much crucial information about the fate of man, why was it removed from the sacred texts? What shocking truth does it hold that should be hidden? If we believed to know the story of Adam and Eve, the content of this lost book reveals to us that what they told us is just the surface of a much deeper and disturbing truth. The first and second books of Adam and Eve describe in detail the events that took place after the expulsion of Eden, and what is most surprising is the emphasis on the spiritual struggle that the first humans faced. They were not only physically banished, but were also disconnected from the divine light, plunged into an extreme state of vulnerability to the dark forces. In the traditional biblical account, the disobedience of Adam and Eve is paid with the expulsion of paradise, pain, and forced labor. But this book tells us something else. The real punishment was the loss of contact with the heavenly world and direct access to divine wisdom. Before the fall, Adam and Eve were luminous, immortal, and spiritually conscious beings. Their connection with God was direct and constant. But after eating the forbidden fruit, they not only acquired the knowledge of good and evil, but their energy frequency changed. Their essence became dense. Their light went out, and they were trapped in a much more primitive state of matter. This descent was not only physical, but also dimensional. According to these writings, the Garden of Eden was not only a physical space, but a kingdom of superior existence, a vibrational plane of harmony. The expulsion was not only from one place, but from a completely different reality. And the world they were thrown into was dominated by shadows, pain, and deception. One of the most disturbing aspects of these texts is Satan's presence as an active and persistent entity. Here he is not only a symbol of evil, but a real being who pursues Adam and Eve with a clear objective: to keep them enslaved in suffering and ignorance. The book describes several episodes where Satan tries to convince Adam and Eve to commit suicide, promising them that if they die, they will be able to return to Eden. On other occasions, he disguises himself as an angel of light to deceive them and divert them even further from his path. This pattern of manipulation was not limited to Adam and Eve, but continues to this day. According to these texts, humanity has inherited that same state of disconnection and vulnerability, trapped in an illusory world controlled by forces that seek to take us away from our true spiritual potential. But here comes the most shocking point. These texts suggest that our world is not what it seems. Instead of being a planet where we simply evolve, it is a prison designed to keep our consciousness asleep. According to the ancient agnostic teaching backed by this book, humanity lives in a kind of controlled simulation where souls reincarnate repeatedly without remembering their divine origin. Satan and his legions act as the prisoners of this matrix, manipulating reality so that human beings do not seek the truth or reconnect with their original light. This concept is disturbingly similar to the teachings of many esoteric traditions that speak of the samsara wheel, the infinite cycle of death and rebirth, of which we can only escape when we awaken our consciousness. And this leads us to the crucial question: is there a way to get rid of this spiritual prison? If the exile of Adam and Eve was not only physical but also spiritual and dimensional, the big question arises: is there a way to reverse the fall? Can we find the way back to our original state of light? The lost book of Adam and Eve suggests that, despite the deception and the prison in which humanity is located, God did not abandon us. There are keys, fragments of hidden wisdom that were given to the first humans and that still today can guide us in our awakening. The divine promise, the key to breaking the enchantment. One of the most intriguing aspects of this text is that God, seeing the suffering of Adam and Eve, promises them that one day he will send a redemptive light to rescue them from the prison of the material world. This concept resonates with many spiritual traditions. In Christianity, this promise is associated with the arrival of Christ as the Savior. In Gnosticism, it is related to the awakening of the divine spark within each human being. In Buddhism and Hinduism, there is talk of the liberation of the samsara through enlightenment. But here is a shocking detail. According to the book, the process of redemption is not something that happens automatically. Humanity must prepare its consciousness to receive this light. Throughout their time on Earth, Adam and Eve not only faced physical difficulties, but a constant spiritual siege. Satan and his entities tried to divert them, corrupt their minds, and steal the little light they had left. This story suggests that the fight did not end with them, but is perpetuated to this day. Each person is a battlefield between darkness and light, between fear and awakening. Fears, doubts, and despair are control tools used by these entities to keep us prisoners. Distraction, materialism, and ignorance are invisible chains that prevent us from remembering who we really are. If this is true, it means that every choice we make in our life is an act of alignment with light or darkness. The ancient texts suggest that Adam and Eve were instructed in certain methods to reconnect with divine light, methods that, if we apply today, could help us awaken and free ourselves from illusion. Some of these keys include prayer and internal connection, not as an empty ritual, but as an authentic communication with the divine. According to these texts, prayer is not only a supplication, but an energetic channel that allows us to receive the vibration of the original light. Meditation and recollection. Many traditions coincide that inner silence is the door to hidden knowledge. Adam and Eve spent long periods fasting and deep prayer, seeking to raise their consciousness above the material world. Sacred knowledge. Ancient scriptures insist that ignorance is the greatest ally of darkness. Acquiring wisdom is, in itself, an act of liberation, purification of the body and mind. Since time immemorial, purification practices have been used to raise the vibration of the body and facilitate the connection with higher dimensions. These methods are not mere superstitions, but tools that have been preserved throughout history to help us escape the control matrix in which we have been trapped. Perhaps the most surprising message of this book is the insinuation that Eden was never destroyed, but still exists, but in a plane that can only be accessed when our consciousness reaches the appropriate frequency. In other words, the return to paradise is not a physical journey, but a state of consciousness to which we must ascend. This would completely change our perception of the world. We would not expect a future redemption, but we would have the power to claim our divinity right now. Now that we have explored the hidden content of this book and its implications for humanity, the most important moment comes. How to apply this knowledge in our daily life. If the lost book of Adam and Eve is true, then humanity is not condemned to suffering nor to oblivion. Within each of us resides a divine spark, a fragment of the original light waiting to be awakened. But how can we activate that power and transcend the prison of the material world? Here we will explore spiritual practices based on the principles revealed in these ancient texts. If we apply them with discipline and devotion, they could allow us to transcend the illusion, recover our essence, and align ourselves again with the lost paradise. The first step to remember who we really are is to clean the distortions that have been implanted in our consciousness. Since the exile of Adam and Eve, humanity has been plunged into fear, guilt, and distraction. Freeing ourselves from those chains is essential. Practice these actions to clarify your thoughts. Observe your thoughts. During the day, pay attention to the mental patterns that arise. How many of them are filled with fear, doubt, or negativity? Reconfigure your mind. Every time you identify a limiting thought, replace it with a high affirmation. For example, change, I am not enough, for I am a divine being in evolution. Avoid overload of information. In the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with stimuli that cloud our perception. Reducing external noise helps us hear the inner voice. The lost book of Adam and Eve mentions that, after their fall, they began to consume denser foods that kept them away from their original state. In many traditions, the purity of the body is a reflection of the purity of the spirit. Some food advice can be, reduce the consumption of processed and low-vibration foods. What we ingest affects our energy, our mental state, and our ability to perceive the subtle. Include live foods in your diet. Fruits, vegetables, and structured water can raise the vibration of your body. Conscious fasting. Fasting in a controlled way is an ancestral practice that allows you to purify the body and expand the spiritual perception. In the accounts of the exile of Adam and Eve, we find a key element. The isolation of the divine was one of the greatest pains they suffered. However, in their moments of greatest despair, they sought God in silence. Take these points into account to meditate. Dedicate at least 15 minutes a day to deep meditation. No matter what technique you use, the essential thing is to reach an inner state of stillness. Eden visualization. Close your eyes and imagine that you are walking through a sacred garden. Perceive the pure energy of that place and feel how it begins to vibrate within you. The power of the sacred name. Many traditions speak that the vibration of certain mantras or divine names can reconnect us with our original essence. The deception of humanity has been to keep us ignorant of our true origin. To regain our spiritual sovereignty, we must seek lost knowledge. Read ancient texts. Writings such as the Book of Enoch, the Kabbalion, or the Gnostic Gospels can offer hidden keys to our true nature. Investigate sacred symbology. The language of the gods has been coded into symbols that only the awake can understand. Interpret your dreams. In ancient times, it was believed that dreams were messages from the soul. Keep a diary and analyze the recurring symbols. The lost book of Adam and Eve reveals a shocking truth. The return to paradise is not physical, but vibrational. It is not a place, but a state of consciousness to which we must ascend. These actions will help you transcend to a state of higher consciousness. Cultivate gratitude. Feel gratitude. Raise your vibration and tune in to the frequency of the original light. Act with compassion. Each action we take leaves a mark on our energy field. Living with love and service brings us closer to our divine essence. Release fear of death. According to this book, death is not the end, but a return home for those who have raised their consciousness. So far, we have discovered that the lost book of Adam and Eve is not just an ancient account of the fall of the human being, but a hidden map that reveals how to recover our true essence. We are not beings destined for suffering, nor prisoners of an imposed reality. We are sparks of the divine, entities with the power to transcend illusion and return to the consciousness of the original light. But here lies the big question. Are we willing to wake up? Many will continue to ignore these truths, trapped in the inertia of everyday life, in ephemeral desires and mundane concerns. However, those who feel the call and decide to explore their own transformation will begin to see signs everywhere. Because when the mind opens to knowledge, the universe responds with revelations. If there is a fundamental teaching in this ancestral text, it is that the exile of Eden is not an eternal condemnation, but an opportunity to remember and evolve. Each decision, each thought, each action we take brings us closer or moves us away from awakening. What we can do from now on is observe our reality with new eyes. Nothing is a coincidence. Every encounter, every challenge, every emotion has a hidden purpose. Live consciously. We are not slaves of matter or time. We can break the cycle of oblivion by taking control of our vibration. Seek the truth beyond appearances. Do not settle for what they have taught you. Investigate. Question. Expand your mind. The lost book of Adam and Eve is a testimony that our history has been manipulated, and the truth has been hidden from us. But the revelation is within reach of those who seek with sincerity. If you have come this far, it is not by chance. Now, fate is in your hands. Will you continue to live in illusion, or will you take control of your existence to recover the lost knowledge? The choice is yours. If this information has resonated with you, Share this video with those you feel are ready to know the truth. Subscribe to continue exploring the hidden mysteries of our existence, and leave us a comment. Do you think the return to Eden is possible? Your awakening is the beginning of something greater. Knowledge is power, and truth is the key.